And research actually shows that students only need one person that sees them, that believes in them, continues to show up for them, to change the trajectory of their entire life. And that could be you, because you're an educator, you're listening to this, you're interacting with kids who do not have that support at home every single day. And if you show up consistently and you literally just practice some of our practices that we teach, I hear you. It was just literally just you listening to what they have to say and reflecting back what you heard them say. So simple.
I remember reading a story recently about a student had never had that gift. And an educator gave that student that gift for the first time in their life, just to feel deeply listened to feel deeply heard. That's the type of work that we're talking about in this competency. The ability to give students that type of life-changing experience. It can truly alter the course of their life, knowing that someone cares enough to really listen to them.
Sam, I am so excited to dive into one of our favorite topics in the entire world together, emotional intelligence. And in the spirit of that, I would love to just take a moment to settle in with you.
I love that.
You ready? So find a comfortable position. I can already see that you're closing your eyes. And if you're listening in, you can settle in with us. And so just take a moment to take a deep breath in and a deep breath out. And let's bring our hands over our heart. Just feel the rhythm of your heart beating beneath your palm. And Sam, I invite you to just notice how you're feeling right now as we begin this podcast together. At Breathe for Change, one of our favorite emotional intelligence practices is called the 2-word check-in. And so if you're joining us, I invite you to find 2 words, literally just 2 words, that describe the vibe of what is happening inside you right now. And Sam and everyone else who's practicing with us, if your eyes are closed, you can gently open them. How you feeling, my friend?
My 2 words, Ilana: grateful and arriving. Yeah.
I feel connected and inspired. Sam, we've been doing this work for over a decade together, which is just such a dream come true. Not only have we had the opportunity to address some of the biggest crises facing education, right? Educator stress and burnout, and our student mental health crises, and now AI completely disrupting what it even means to teach and learn. But I get to do that with one of my best friends in the world, you. And I'm so excited to share with the world today some of the work that you and I have spent thousands upon thousands of hours thinking about co-creating and putting out into the world. So, we started this 10 years ago, but it's only been in the last year that we have come up with this new framework, which makes total sense to us now, called human intelligence. And I would love for you to just share the origin story of that for everyone who is like, what in the world is human intelligence?
Sure, I'd love to. Before we jump in, though, I just want to name, you've led 2-word check-in for probably, 50,000 educators over the last decade?
No. Sam, we do monthly webinars for 10,000 educators. So it's probably been, I know that we've impacted or directly trained or led webinars or our master's program for over 250,000 educators.
Yeah, there you go.
So I would guess probably I was leading like 200,000 of those, but I've also led 2-word check-in for family, friends, and other people. So
and I know we're going to talk a lot about emotional intelligence today. And I just think a 2-word check-in, right? That's all about building awareness about our emotions. And it's so simple, and yet I remember as a kid having no real emotional vocabulary, or right, the
Mm-mm.
literacy to really explain my emotions. And so I just want to name like that practice in of itself such a powerful way of cultivating emotional intelligence, and so much more on that topic for you all over the next hour. But to step back for a second, zoom out, if you will, right? Human intelligence. We've been doing this work in other language for a decade now.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, human intelligence is really at the core. It just makes so much sense for where we are as a country, as a world right now. We're really, I believe, deeply at an important moment where we are evolving the
Mm-hmm.
way that we think about human intelligence. And so much of that has to do with the advent of AI, as you mentioned, right? What is artificial intelligence? What really are the skills that humans will need to cultivate deeply, that we will need to teach our students
So we can thrive.
so that we can thrive over time? And also, how do we address just mental health challenges, teacher burnout? You mentioned a lot of that. To me, it requires a really radical approach to rethinking what human intelligence even looks like. I remember a few years ago really sitting with this more deeply and thinking, okay, I understand human skills are
Mm-hmm.
changing. They have a lot of different names: social emotional skills, power skills, human skills. And then trying to really think about, well, what are the human skills that are going to be needed? That are needed now, but also in the future. Things like creativity and collaboration and resilience and other things like that. But to me, we just got into a game of like, what are the skills?
Mm-hmm.
And I think what we've realized over the last 6 months is that we actually want to play a lot bigger. We want to play in, well, what does human intelligence actually need to look like? And what do we need to teach our students to make sure that they're set up and ready to thrive?
And I remember when you and I were talking about what is intelligence in today's context in education. And everything is so focused on the cognitive side of things, cognitive intelligence. I mean, you and I are like, okay, cognitive overload, right? As educators, it's our responsibility to ensure that our students are meeting particular standards, are assessing effectively on tests, are performing like cognitively. It's all in the mind. But what about the intelligence of the body, right? Our bodies have so much wisdom, right? When we're aware of our bodies and we actually can more effectively regulate our bodies, we, both educators and students, can perform more effectively on those cognitive tests, right? And then what about our emotional intelligence, which is what we are going to geek out on today, like our capacity to feel, right? When we actually tune in, like we just did with the 2-word check-in, to our emotional experience, and then can more effectively not only regulate our emotions, but like incorporate their guidance, because our emotions have so much wisdom to them. That's intelligence. And then there's social intelligence. You and I, what we're doing right now, connecting, like creating a sense of community and belonging, and that deeply impacts teaching and learning. And then that other form of intelligence that it took us a while to arrive there, but we realize is so critically important, universal intelligence, our connection to our deepest purpose in life, something greater than ourselves that sometimes is even hard to name or talk about, but it's there. All of that is so important to teach and to learn. And if we actually teach these human skills through this lens of those 5 layers of human intelligence: somatic, the body, emotions, cognitive, which is absolutely important. I'm not saying it's bad or wrong. It's just not the only part of this. And then social and universal, like that's the future of education that I'm interested in.
Amen, sister. Me too. And just to name, like, the focus on cognitive intelligence, just rife with inequities and racism, and just that has not served the students that our country needs to serve, right? And by really expanding out that definition of human intelligence, I think that we're doing a service to a lot of students who have been left behind, right? And also just expanding the way in which we need to hold what people need to know and how they need to thrive over time. So excited that we're expanding out this definition and so many practices and just so much rich information. And today,
Emotional
intelligence.
Woohoo!
And I think where we should go first, Ilana, is just what is really the story that we're telling around emotional intelligence? Obviously, emotional intelligence is a thing, right? There's been so much written on this topic, such incredible leaders in the field who have
Since
spent
the early 1990s.
their lives really focused on this. And I think the way that we're talking about it is actually a pretty unique and powerful way. So should we go into that?
Let's dive in. So one of the things that Sam and I and Michael and our team have been talking about, like, okay, what is at the core of emotional intelligence? What is this about? And we debated this, y'all, for months and months and months until we arrived at it's about wholeness. It's not about feeling certain emotions or trying to experience certain emotions. Yes, certain emotions bring certain types of meaning and experiences to our lives, which are beautiful. It's really about creating and cultivating an empowering relationship with every single one of our emotions. And imagine, y'all, what life would actually look like if every single human being on this planet had an empowering relationship with every single emotion. And I'm talking every single emotion: anger, frustration, shame, anxiety, fear, and of course, gratitude and excitement and joy and all of those things. But I know for so many of us, myself and you included, we've talked about this for forever. It's like we were taught that some emotions were acceptable and others absolutely no. Either you can't feel it, you need to suppress it, you have to avoid it at all costs, or it's not accepted here. It's bad. It's wrong. You can't cry. You're a boy, Sam. You can't express anger, Ilana. That's not okay.
Sadness needs to be quiet, right? Depression isn't accepted here.
Don't talk about it.
Right? Don't talk about it. How many students, how many educators have gotten that message growing up? Right? Shame is something that you keep hidden, that you never talk about.
You're not even supposed to feel it.
Or on the other side, I mean, joy. Like, oh, don't feel that much joy. Don't get that excited.
Don't let people see that, y'all. That's not what everyone's feeling.
Right? And so much of this, the positive intention behind this is, well, to make sure that you belong, or to make sure that you go along to get along, right? And so there's protective messages in all of this. And when I think about my life, I think about my role as an educator, right? Like emotional intelligence, helping my students cultivate a feeling of wholeness. I mean, just what a profound place to be taking people.
And it's from that place of wholeness. Like I actually feel whole within myself. I accept all parts of who I am and how I'm showing up. That we actually can step out into the world and feel confident in who we are and express ourselves more fully and feel all the feels, which I know for so many of us, I mean, billions of people on this planet, we have cut that opportunity off from ourselves, which is so sad. And what a gift it is to think about educators in the future having an intention around supporting their students and experiencing wholeness, right?
So you know this, Ilana. So I have a background in clinical psychology, right? I have a master's in clinical psych. I've gone fairly deep on therapies like acceptance and commitment therapy. And what I would say, 20 plus years of personal development that I've done is that the way to really like emerge from the things that are holding me back, from the limiting beliefs that I have, from the things that are difficult in life, right? That an AI bot is never going to replace.
No.
Right? Like the real keys to living a successful life, right? Like past the academic achievements. That has to do with acceptance of my emotional experience. Like full stop.
Say more about that I've had the honor of being one of your best friends for decades.
Yeah.
Like share a little more about your journey with this.
Yeah. So I think a lot of men, I think a lot of boys struggle with anger and are taught at a young age not to express anger. And I think one of the through lines in my life, and I have 3 kids now, 4 and under, right? So I'm really trying to end this pattern, but are just expressions of anger, right? Or simmering anger, and that just being, something that is really with me, and then feelings of shame around that, and just getting really caught in a disempowering relationship with anger and with shame, and underneath that with sadness. Right. I have spent so long running away from feeling sad, or right, feeling
I've seen
inadequate underneath that. Right. And to me, the work, and I think that this is true for, I imagine, most people that are listening to this podcast, Ilana, is, well, how do I make peace with a lot of these emotional experiences that I was taught are not okay, or that I feel are running my life, or running my relationships, are always operating under the surface. And I think what we're getting at is that wholeness for ourselves, right? Bringing people on that journey to wholeness for ourselves, and then for students and children, is just so fundamentally important, and truly is a birthright. And we're helping to return people and kids to that fundamental birthright.
And this is a lifelong practice that you're talking about, like the undoing of what we were taught, right? I've witnessed you work with your shame, your sadness, your anger for several years. And when you crack open and there's this like softness, this vulnerability, like tears, like your voice, your tone changes, it's profoundly beautiful. It is such a gift. I'm like, if only everyone could like feel safe enough in their bodies, in their environment, in their communities, in their schools, to have the capacity from within to be like, I can just show all of those parts of me, especially the quieter ones that may be a little more, uncomfortable, or feel like a super stretch, like I know shame and sadness and anger do for you.
Yeah.
It's, oof. I feel like that's a life worth living, is just fighting to see that in our future.
I agree. And then I think back to teaching students, right, in middle school, or teaching English to high schoolers and college students, and just learning the things that some of these students were sitting with, from deep trauma histories to just feelings of just inadequacy, right, of shame, of just very, very difficult emotional experiences, and that just layering how they would show up in my classroom, how they would academically achieve, and ultimately how they would be in their lives. And to me, when I think about when I was teaching, like the things that give me the most joy looking back, they are the emotional, right, skills that I helped my children develop. And I'm not saying that needs to be all of it, right? But I am saying that needs to be a bigger part. And I think what we're doing is we're setting the North Star as wholeness, and it feels really inspiring and really ambitious to me, Ilana.
Totally.
Right? To think that we could have a role in helping our kids cultivate more wholeness, be more whole.
And you I went to your classroom in DC. I remember it deeply. Oh,
yeah.
Good times. You worked with, secondary students, but
Yeah.
I started with the littlest, youngest kids, their first year in school for many of them. And as I discovered for myself how important my own emotional intelligence was, my emotional health, because I was so stressed, so overwhelmed, burning out, mental and emotional health, horrible. And when I finally did something about it, and I took some moments to breathe, I did my yoga practice, I carved out a little more time with friends, I tried to take care of myself a little bit more, I felt the impact, and I showed up differently for my students. And that's when I was like, if this impacts me this way, maybe I can teach my kids some of this stuff and it's going to make an impact on them. And obviously it did in unbelievably transformational ways. I mean, it inspired me to not only integrate some of these practices that we'll share today into my classroom with my kids. And we saw incredible growth in them, social, emotionally, and academically. But that's what moved me to start my PhD, which my dissertation and inspired me to start Breathe for Change. And here we are today. But the interesting thing that I discovered early in my career as an educator was that kids are never too young to learn these skills. In fact, we have a responsibility as educators and as parents, which we both are, to teach our kids how to become aware of, regulate, and honor and fully accept every single emotion. Like, that is a responsibility that I now carry for myself. And we've seen the transformation in our educators and millions of students who have actually recognized what you and I have recognized about emotional intelligence.
Absolutely. So that's where we're aiming for wholeness.
Yeah.
And I think the question becomes, well, how the heck do you get there? And we've been working with some real top experts in the field of emotional intelligence and just knocking our heads against the wall, right? And spending just so much time deeply thinking about the competencies, the skills that you need as an educator, and then that you need as a student to really embody wholeness and ultimately to be at the forefront of emotional intelligence. And I feel like we should break that down for everybody.
Absolutely. And Sam and I, as he mentioned, have been just so lucky. We're talking to the greatest experts in the field around this work. And not only did we come up with 5 competencies, but we also have these incredibly tangible practices that you as educators and your students can learn and then ultimately that you can teach in your schools so that you can develop these competencies, right? Because we don't want to stop at the theory. We've all read the theory around intelligence in some way, shape, or form, but that's not translatable into actual practice. And so I'm so excited. Let's geek out. Maybe we start at competency 1.
Let's do it.
All right. Competency 1, y'all, you experienced it. Hey, 2-word check-in was a teaser.
Yeah.
So competency 1 is called affective awareness. That's the scientific term for emotional awareness, right? Our capacity, our ability to notice and name. So not just noticing, but be able to name, articulate our emotions.
And just such a powerful first competency. And again, so it's 2 parts. It's 1, what is going on for me emotionally? And then how do I cultivate the language to accurately represent what's going on? And that's not just sad, angry, joyful. It's the more nuanced emotional experience of what I'm really experiencing. And a lot of research shows that as you get more nuanced, you also create a lot more grounding in yourself, right? Your system really relaxes once you're able to really name what it is that you're experiencing and feeling.
And wholeness is absolutely not even possible if you don't know how you're feeling. Because how can you have an empowering relationship with your emotion if you literally don't know what emotion is showing up for you right now? If I am not in tune with what is happening inside me, if I don't know that actually deep down I'm feeling deep grief or fear, then I can't experience wholeness because I'm not in touch and in tune with that emotion. And, as you mentioned, emotional awareness, affective awareness is really about getting into the granularity. It's not just I'm feeling happy, mad, sad, or scared. It's like, what's like even a more nuanced flavor of that? And especially for our young kids and for those of us who have had no experience in our lives being taught how to be emotionally aware, though that granularity is going to take time and practice. And so, the 2-word check-in requires that we can name our emotions, right? What were the 2 words that you shared? Do you remember?
I was feeling arriving and grateful.
And what are you feeling now? What are your 2 words now?
I'm excited and on the edge of my seat.
Ooh,
yeah.
Edgy.
What about
I'm
you?
feeling present and amped.
Mm.
But, for our youngest students, for students who may not have English as their first language, for us as adults who, again, just no literacy in emotional intelligence, another practice, another doorway in might be through like something called the weather report, where you actually use the metaphor of the weather to tap into your internal emotional experience. So should we do it?
Let's do it.
All right. So if you're listening, please join us. I invite you to find a comfortable position. Yeah, you can soften your gaze or close your eyes and connect to your breath. And as you breathe, I invite you to draw your attention to your emotional world. I want you to take an internal weather report. So ask yourself, how are you feeling right now as it relates to the weather? What's your weather report inside? So maybe it's cloudy with a chance of rain. Maybe it's warm and sunny inside. Maybe, there is a lightning and thunderstorm that is just going off. Maybe it's brisk, but clear. Maybe it's a little foggy, muggy. So just finding your internal weather report without trying to shift or change it, y'all. Your weather report is perfect exactly as it is. And so just taking this moment to honor and to fully accept whatever weather is present inside you right now. When you've got your weather report, you can say thank you. Thanks for showing me what's going on here. I got you. You can open your eyes if they're closed. I'm curious what came up for you, Sam.
I was having just like this powerful thunderstorm with just a rainbow slowly emerging.
I knew you were going to say there was a rainbow.
Tapped in.
Because I feel it. I feel it. There's something magical that's happening in this moment. And I knew you were going to say that.
So the weather report, just another simple, powerful way to help students and educators and everybody, right, get a sense of how you're feeling, especially if you don't have, say, the words for it. You can find a metaphor. And that can be such a powerful way of bringing my experience into words.
And you can do the 2-word check-in or the weather report literally the first thing when you wake up, just as getting a pulse. How are you right now? How are you feeling? And that's going to give you insight into what you need to thrive throughout your day. You can also do this as a settle-in practice to open your class, right? Students come in, you're like, before we dive into math or before we dive into the science lesson, let's settle in with a weather report or a 2-word check-in. And engaging your students not only in the practice, but inviting them to share their weather report or their 2 words. It doesn't take much time, but it is such profound knowledge for you as an educator to be like, oh, this is the pulse of what is happening in my room. And from that place of awareness, you can more effectively teach because you can respond to what is needed in the moment. And what a gift.
And again, the research shows that simply naming how you are feeling often helps you create distance from it and also just helps you to express it and let go of it. And that can be so helpful with some of those more difficult emotions like anger or sadness, right? Just simply naming it can be 80% of the work there. And I think just to name, right, affective awareness, where we're starting here in the first competency, I can't tell you how many adults I've worked with in my coaching business who have struggled so deeply with how am I even doing?
I mean,
like, what am I actually feeling? I think early on I would get almost frustrated with people like, what, you don't know how you, like, what do you mean? You don't know how you're feeling? Like, just come on. But the truth is that so many people, no fault of their own, do not have the ability to bring language to how they're feeling. Sometimes that's a trauma response, right? The numbing of emotions. And how powerful can it be to give that to students, to kids, that you were teaching, right? 4 or 5-year-olds.
Emotional awareness or affective awareness is a learned skill.
Correct.
And when we intentionally embody these practices, some of which that we just shared with you, and we go way, way, way deeper. Those were just two of our foundational practices. We go way deeper in our master's program and our other trainings at Breathe for Change around this. But these practices give us the skill to notice and name, which then leads to the second competency, which is all about meaning making. So, right, the first one is awareness, right? Noticing and naming our emotions. But then it's emotions. There's so much meaning to be made, right? And the second competency is all about that. It's making meaning of our emotions. It's about us processing our emotions to make meaning of our experience.
So let's give a real example of this. And I'll go back. So second year teaching middle school. And I'm downstairs, lunch period, and there's a student who's been misbehaving in my class, and I just lose it, right? Like I'm not, right? Like I slam the table, anger on full display, completely inappropriate.
Mr. Levine showing up not at his best.
Correct. Right. And not great. And in the moment, right, I moved to anger justification. Mm-hmm. Well, this kid's been acting out. He hasn't been showing up. He, quote, ruined my lesson plan today, right? I know none of this is true, but I'm in the heat of the anger, right? So I'm saying these things to justify it. And as I leave, I feel that righteous feeling of anger that I imagine many of you can justify or feel. And then it's 3 hours later, and I'm in my car, and I'm going home, and I am just feeling the impact of that anger, of the slamming of the table. And I'm moving into shame now, right? And so now that's the accurate representation of the emotion. I'm feeling shame in that moment about how I acted. And I start making meaning about why I'm experiencing that, right? And so the story that I'm telling myself in the meaning making is like, get all the way to the bottom is, I'm a terrible teacher. Mm-hmm. I'm a terrible teacher. And past that, I am a man who cannot control his anger. I am, what are they calling it now? I'm an example of toxic masculinity, right? Like I've just gone there. And I'm sitting in my car.
There's no coming back in that moment. Right. There's no coming back.
And that's it, right?
Yeah.
And so that's what Competency 2 is all about, is taking you and your students on this journey, hopefully not always there, but to make meaning of, why am I feeling this emotion right now? What's the story that's driving this? Right. And ultimately, like, what am I telling myself about myself often, or about my needs, or about what I really need or want that's driving this? Because the other side of that is, well, what do I really want? Well, I want to have a classroom where students are learning, where students respect me, right? And that's all underneath that angry response.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. You just went straight to the itty bitty shitty committee, right? We all have this itty bitty shitty committee inside our brains, right? It's, I'm not good enough. I'm not smart enough. I can't do it. I'm a bad teacher. But that all starts from some emotional experience that we have, right? You feel angry, and then something happens. You have an outburst, and then you make meaning about who you are as a result of your emotion and your experience. And when we actually take time to process our emotions, then we can see the stories that we're actually starting to tell ourselves that are narrating and literally narrating our lives and creating our reality.
100%. And I'll just give one other flip side example of this I think is so important. One of the things that I think a lot of people struggle with, and that kids are not really taught, is to figure out, what is it that I really love to do? Mm-hmm. Right? What am I passionate about? What do I love doing? And how that can help drive you to a career over time. And to me, what we're talking about right now is giving kids the language to be able to say, oh, I feel joy, right? So I've tapped in, I'm feeling joy right now, or I'm feeling passionate right now, or I'm feeling love right now. I'm feeling happy right now. And then, well, why is that? Mm-hmm. And if you can help children actually trace that, you can give them the gift of things like purpose over time, or living a life where I'm in touch with the things that give me joy, that give me passion, that light me up, but without being able to understand the story around the emotion or to pinpoint the things that are responsible for that emotion, you're unable to do that really, really important exercise that so many people struggle with.
And so many of the emotions that we feel that are really big emotions, that are challenging, that we likely tend to push away or avoid altogether, those are some of the most important emotions to bring to the surface and to like really make meaning of. So you can understand what is this emotion here to teach me? What is it trying to communicate to me about my needs, my boundaries, my deepest desires in life or in this moment? And one of the practices that I love most in our master's program around this competency is emotion visitor, right? Because not only do you like, I want you to, you can be my emotion right now. Let's just imagine that Sam is my anxiety, my fear. Okay. So for all of you listening, the emotion visitor, the purpose is to create distance from your emotion, which is why you literally kind of imagine the emotion on a chair facing you, just like Sam is facing me. And if depending how big or challenging this emotion is, you can put it on the other side of the room, right? Or the blacktop, like way far away, or you can sit next to this emotion. But the purpose is to imagine as though that emotion is like living outside of you and to actually have a conversation with it. Like, hey, hi, fear. What is it that you're trying to communicate to me about what I need right now?
Yeah. And in that moment, you're doing two things, right? One, you're getting distance from the emotion, which can be really important in those moments where you're feeling something really intensely. And you're tuning in, you're asking an emotion a question, because the truth is, y'all, emotions have messages for us. They have positive intentions. If we listen, they're trying to tell us something.
And I wish that when I was young, I could have known this practice. It would have changed my life. Like
Me too.
Yeah, right? Like thinking about, okay, anxiety, fear, you're over there. You're not who I am. And what do you have to say to me? Like it would have taught me like that I need to actually communicate what I want and stop like fawning and appeasing people and just doing things that other people want me to do because I want them to like me. And I probably would have gained more confidence in myself, and my voice would have been more authentic versus like trying to fit in or say what I thought people wanted me to say. What would your anger have said to you?
I mean, that's a beautiful question. I think it would have said to me, likely that like I want to be seen more is the truth of it. Right? Like that I want to feel more acknowledged, more seen. I think those are fundamental needs, and that when they're not met, they can lead to things like anger. I think for you all, I mean, why don't we lead people through this really quickly, Ilana? Like, I'll take people on a quick little journey here. So if you're open to it, I invite you to close your eyes or find a steady gaze and just take a moment and tune in to an emotion that you're feeling. Right? It could be an emotion that you're feeling right now, or if you want to rewind from the last week and just find something that, maybe felt a little unresolved or felt really alive for you, see if you can tune in to an emotion right now. And maybe try to feel it in your body here. Notice where you're feeling it. So much of emotional intelligence also has to do with our physiology, what we're feeling in our bodies. So see if you can pinpoint the emotion. And once you feel it, see if you can move it outside of your body slowly. And maybe it's a few inches in front of you, 5 feet in front of you, and try to just let that emotion sit in a chair somewhere outside of you. Right? You might say, anger or sadness or anxiety, go sit over there for a minute. And you can just picture this, right? Get that it might feel weird. Let it feel weird. Get that it might feel uncomfortable. That's okay. Makes sense. And then ask it a question, right? Why are you here? What do you have to teach me? What are you trying to show me? And maybe something arrives. Maybe that's an inquiry that you can sit with. But oftentimes our emotional experiences are trying to teach us something. They're trying to show us something around our needs or wants. So maybe there's something that comes for you here. And let's all take a deep breath in and exhale it out. And you can let that emotion, move from your chair and just kind of slowly disappear. You can shake this out a little bit if it still feels present. And yeah, I'm curious, Ilana. I don't know if you went on the journey with me.
Did.
Okay. Yeah. What came up for you?
Gratitude was my emotion. And what came up for me is I'm just so enjoying doing this with you. And
thanks.
It's pointing me towards what I want to do more of.
Yeah.
And I just feel so blessed and so grateful for the work that we get to do together in this world for educators and education. And so I'm just sitting in the bliss of gratitude.
Thank you. Love
that.
Just
thank you, gratitude. I wanted to run up to the chair and put it on my lap and hug it. So.
Yeah. And it's beautiful, right? One of the things I want to make sure that we don't leave you all with is this is all negative emotions.
Oh no, this is for all the things. The good, the bad, the ugly, but there's no good or bad when it comes to emotions. But the whole spectrum of your emotional experience, your emotional world, all of it. And you're going to experience so many different emotions in one day, in 1 hour, in likely 1 minute, right? Especially our kids who are all under 4. It's okay, in 1 minute, there's 10 emotions, a minimum.
100%.
So this is really a doorway into your emotional world. And again, about wholeness, and it's all welcome. It's all 100%. Beautiful.
So that's competency 2. Competency 3, we should go there.
We debated this for so long. Hundreds of hours. What is this competency? And I'm going to take you behind the scenes, y'all. We started with the competency being regulation, because this is our respond competency. And, in the context of schools, especially, we're constantly hearing and talking about regulating our emotions, which is absolutely critical, right? Can we as educators and our students regulate ourselves when it comes to our emotions, right? If we're experiencing anger, or frustration, or anxiety in class, how do we regulate that? But it just didn't sit with us as the whole of what this competency was about. So we were like, what else is here?
And just to name, before we go to what else is here, part of the reason that it didn't resonate with us is because regulation often becomes controlling your emotions, or finding that just static equilibrium that I don't actually think is the key to living an emotionally vibrant life at all.
Well, and oftentimes, especially in the context of schools, we see this all the time. It's actually doing exactly what we talked about as the opposite of wholeness, which is literally pushing down certain emotions. You're
100%.
Not allowed to feel those things. Hide it at all costs, or you're going to get kicked out of the class, or you can't learn. And so there was something about disrupting that narrative that felt critical to us. And so what we ended up rolling with was integration. And the reason we decided that this third competency about responding is integration is because we added a layer to the regulation piece. So it's about, I can regulate my emotions and incorporate their guidance, because that actually respects each and every emotion, right? Integrating whatever it is that our emotions are here to teach us, that they're communicating to us about what we need, what we want, what we desire, what our boundaries are, what boundaries have been crossed. That's so important. When we integrate that knowledge into our current experience, it's transformational.
1,000%. 1,000%. And so it's those two parts. You cannot really be guided by your emotions if you are not able to regulate, right? And so there's so much good science here, and it's so important that we teach our students, we teach ourselves how to emotionally regulate. How do I take something that's feeling really, really big and breathe it down? How do I get some space from it, psychological distancing, so that I can then be guided by my emotional experience?
And there are so many different ways to integrate, right? And because different emotions need different things when it comes to integration and when it comes to regulation, first and foremost. So sometimes actually moving the emotion through you, experiencing it fully rather than shutting it down, avoiding it, pushing it away, or like pretending it's not there. We've all done that. Have you done that, Sam?
I believe I have, yes.
Like, we have this practice in our masters called emotion in motion. I'm obsessed with it, not only because it sounds cool, emotion in motion, yes, but because how beautiful of an offering is that? Not only am I noticing this emotion, am I seeing that it's here, am I making meaning of it, but I'm giving it space to move, to be felt, to be seen, to be heard. And that can look so different depending on whatever emotion it is that you're experiencing. Like if you're angry, like our dear friend Sam sometimes gets, then maybe it's screaming in a pillow. Maybe it's literally like, ah! Maybe it's like jumping up and down. Maybe what else, Sam, you would know?
I mean, those are all good, right? Maybe it's getting some exercise. Maybe it's just figuring out a way to like release that anger, find a integrated way to do that, right? That doesn't look like an outburst. So that's anger, but we're talking about the range here, right? I know so many students really struggle with anxiety. And anxiety can feel, right, can feel all consuming if you don't do something with that energy. And so to me, like energy, right, like it needs to move.
One of the things that I do when I'm in an anxious state, which happens multiple times a day, Sam knows all too well, and thank you for supporting me through it.
Got you, girl.
Is like, just like sometimes I just need to shake it out.
Yeah.
Like it's like, okay, I feel it. It feels so big. It's in my head. It's in my body. And like literally shaking it out or bouncing can be really, really helpful to like let it move through me. And then some other ways is literally just getting outside and going on a walk through nature. There's something about being in like this beautiful universe that's bigger than myself around green plants and trees that like, it like moves the anxiety through me and then kind of releases it in some way.
It can also just be breathing that energy down. I know for me with stress, with anxiety, if I can breathe it down, I can put my hands on the earth, right? Or put my feet really firmly planted into the ground beneath me. That can be a really powerful way of just emotion in motion.
I'm laughing because I'm thinking about how you and I are literally obsessed with celebration. Sam and I are literally, anytime we get the opportunity to celebrate, whether it's with our team or our friends or
Come
each
on,
other,
y'all, one life. Let's go.
It's like, what do we want to do? Say it.
Celebrate.
Dance.
Let's
we
dance.
want to go dance. So we turn up the music. We like put on dance music. We're like, woo! Even on my birthday, you came over. I was like, what are we going to do? We're going dancing. Dance. We have one life. Let's go. So there's also like, you can move energy like that, right? Yeah. Joy, excitement. Like, you know, so many of us were taught you can't let that show, right? Especially if not other people are feeling that in the room. How do you, don't let them see that. No, we're standing for the opposite. And so 100%. This practice of emotion in motion, you can do by yourself in any moment when you're feeling a present emotion within you that you think would benefit from some movement.
100%. Beautifully said. And then just, right. So that's a certain type of emotional integration practice. I think another type is following that thread from meaning making is, okay, so I've arrived, right? Maybe it's not in the moment, but a lot of these things are quite cyclical, right? You're all right. Like you feel the same emotional thing. You got the same story.
That pattern.
The itty bitty shitty committee running on repeat over and over again, right? A cyclical pattern. So some of this can be pattern breaking. And you can do that by building over time a new narrative, a new story, a new belief system around the story that's running on repeat.
Oh, you are talking about one of my favorite strategies called rethink your story, right? So in meaning making, we have this practice called, what is it? Identify your story. Identify your story. And then in integration, it's rethink it, right?
100%.
So I might find out through my discovery and meaning making that my story is I'm not good enough. But then in rethink your story, we're going through the think acronym. Is that story true? T. Is it helpful? H. Is it inspiring? I. Is it necessary? Is it needed in the moment? N. And is it kind, both to yourself and others? K. And then you go through that process around the story, and likely if the itty bitty shitty committee is in charge of that story, the answer is no.
No.
Hardcore no. And so there's this opportunity through the practice of integration to integrate the learnings from that story,
Absolutely.
but to rethink it, to shift it. I am good enough. I'm amazing. I'm brilliant. And to be able to see the power of the stories that we create and integrate something new.
Is this work easy? No. And right?
Is it transformational?
Yes. And starting and incrementally building on this is so incredibly important to emotional intelligence. I think about my 4.5-year-old son. He has embedded stories already about himself. And so helping him slowly, right, dig into that is so powerful. And as educators, we have the ability, right, to do that with our students. I'm not saying that you don't have a full plate, y'all. And this work can be so, so transformational for students, not only in the classroom, in their lives.
And this really builds perfectly on the next competency, which is acknowledgement.
Yeah.
So the first 3 competencies, affective awareness, meaning making, and integration, are really about the self, right? It's like my ability to notice and name my emotions, my ability to make meaning of those emotions, my ability to integrate that meaning and the guidance for my emotions into my experience. But then we're human beings, we're social beings. And how do we show up in relationship emotionally with one another? And that's where acknowledgement comes in. It's about honoring not just other people's emotional experience and their emotions, but how can we hold both ours and the other at the same time?
I honor my own and others' experiences and emotions.
And usually we're great at one or the other. Some of us, especially educators, givers, we give so much of ourselves to others that you might feel really great at honoring other people's emotions, but then you're completely neglecting your own.
1,000%. And to me, there's some really, really important concepts that are embedded here. One is vulnerability. Who struggles with vulnerability, right? Raising hands here. And such an incredibly getting better. You absolutely are. Such an incredible skill at just building connection and community that you can give students for their relationships, right, over time, and ultimately for how they just are in their lives, how they feel, how they express to others. So vulnerability being so incredibly important. And in terms of, well, how do I hold space for others? How do I honor others' experiences? I think there are really 2 pieces we're talking about here. The first is, can I hear you? At a very basic level, right? Y'all, divorce rates around 50% in this country. You can't,
off the charts.
You can't tell me, like, having looked at some of that research, like from John Gottman and other leaders in this space, so much of that has to do with people just not actually hearing each other.
And one of the reasons why is because when we're, quote, listening, there's no chance. We're not listening. We're thinking about what we want to do next week on our to-do list. We're judging the heck about what they're saying. We're about to form our opinion, thinking about, I'm going to better give him some advice here.
Totally.
We're completely, off in the clouds somewhere else, thinking about, where our thoughts are taking us, but we're not actually present. We're not mindfully here and present with the other person, giving our full attention. And that full attention is the greatest gift. Your presence is the greatest present you can give anyone. Like, get rid of like the bag from the store. Give someone your presence. And
Can you just stop on that? You just give me chills saying that, right? Like, say that line again.
Your presence is the greatest present that you can give anyone in your life. You don't need a gift in a bag. Give them your full presence, your listening, your full attention. And through that interaction, literally, it's life-changing for someone else. When we feel heard, when we feel seen, when we feel valued, we feel connected. We feel like I belong here. We feel like hopeful for ourselves. We feel hopeful for the world. We feel inspired. We feel grateful. We feel like there's a place for me here. I'm understood. Someone gets me. What a gift.
And I remember reading a story recently about a student who, right, had never had that gift.
Mm-hmm.
And an educator gave that student that gift for the first time in their life, just to feel deeply listened to feel deeply heard. And to me, that's the type of work that we're talking about in this competency, the ability to give students that type of life-changing experience. It can truly alter the course of their life, knowing that someone cares enough to really listen to them.
And research actually shows that students only need literally one person that sees them, that believes in them, and that tells them that, and that continues to show up for them to change the trajectory of their entire life. And that could be you. Because you're an educator, you're listening to this, you're interacting with kids who do not have that support at home every single day. And if you show up consistently and you literally just practice some of our practices that we teach, I hear you. It was just literally just you listening to what they have to say and reflecting back what you heard them say. So simple. Or I'm with you, right? Just being with them, getting in their shoes. Oh, feeling into what they are feeling. It's game-changing.
It's game-changing. And we're pulling, like, shout out Dr. Brene Brown right now, right?
Yes, I love her.
Who's just done such life-changing work on empathy. And I think what I want to underscore here is it's not about giving someone advice. It's not about, right? She says, most empathy does not start with the phrase, well, at least. Well, at least you didn't get an F. At least you're alive. At least you have one parent. But that's not what we're talking about.
If someone said to me, at least you're alive after I fell 44 feet, I would have run away.
Yeah, 100%. And I can think of so many iterations of that. What this is really about is sitting with someone deeply in a place that can feel uncomfortable and just being there with them.
And what that does is it unlocks something magical. It unlocks another person's ability to share their truth. And to be exactly what you talked about, Sam, vulnerable. Because until we feel safe in our relationships or in the context of which we are communicating about who we are, there's no way that we're going to feel comfortable enough to share the whole of who we are, of what is actually going on inside. And so as the listener, we have this unique opportunity to open up energetically, literally, just with our presence, someone else's ability or sense of confidence in expressing themselves fully.
1,000%. And so just to zoom out for a minute, y'all, before we talk about the last competency here, which is, right, we talked about how there are three different challenges going on in education right now. There's teacher burnout and stress. I know so many of you feel that deeply. Imagine this journey that Ilana and I just took you on. Imagine that you had the space to share your truth vulnerably, and you had colleagues and admins who were there to acknowledge you. Like, just what does that do for stress and burnout? Right?
Flips it upside down.
It flips it. And when we talked about mental health for students, anxiety at all times high, right? Depression, suicidal ideation. Again, the things that we're talking about here are so fundamental to shifting that narrative, to shifting that underlying challenge that students are facing around mental health. And then the third one is all around AI. Y'all, like, maybe I'm wrong about this, but I'll take my bet. I don't think AI is doing what me and you are talking about right now, Ilana, anytime soon. This is fundamentally human And at the core of what we as educators and what we as students need to be learning to set us up for a future in which AI is more, right, in the mainstream.
What we're talking about are the competencies and the skills that AI literally can't replace. It never will, because it's not inherently human. And the more that we teach these human skills, and specifically the emotional intelligence skills and competencies and practices that we're talking about today, wow, then we continue to thrive and develop and strengthen our capacities as human beings.
Beautiful. And so we arrive at competency number 5.
Wholeness.
Wholeness. Cultivating an empowering relationship with all of my emotions.
So beautiful. And as you can see, right, we're coming full circle. We started the podcast here with wholeness. We're ending it here. And that's because every single competency that we talked about up to this point, right, affective awareness, our ability to notice and name our emotions, meaning making, our ability to process and make meaning of our emotional experience, and then that integration piece, right, to draw on the wisdom of our emotions and to be able to regulate ourselves effectively. And then acknowledgement, bringing in emotional intelligence into our relationships. All of that leads to wholeness, because every single competency up to this point is really forcing us to do the work of wholeness, of seeing and feeling our emotions, of honoring and accepting wholeheartedly our emotions, of integrating them in a healthy, regulated way. And then in sharing that beautiful emotional experience of being human with another. And that's wholeness.
And one of the most powerful practices in wholeness is gratitude.
Mm-hmm.
Gratitude, right? The science shows that you cannot be both grateful and angry at the same time. That there is just such a powerful current around gratitude that it can transform your experience. And so we have a beautiful strategy all around the attitude of gratitude here in wholeness that is about cultivating more gratitude for all of your emotions, even the ones that seem more difficult, even on their face. Why would I feel grateful for that? Well, hopefully, as you've gone through, right, these competencies, as a student, as an educator, you begin to understand, wow, why is anger actually a gift for me? What is it showing me? And how can I feel grateful for that? And in doing that, really heal, right, my relationship with that harder emotion.
So you ready to play? Let's do
play.
it.
Yeah.
All right, my friends. So I invite you to find a comfortable position and bring your hands over your heart, if you will. Just take a deep breath in and a deep breath out. And I want you to just bring into your heart, into your mind, into your body, an emotion that you struggle with or that you've been struggling with lately. Maybe it's sadness. Maybe it's anxiety, anger, frustration, grief, shame, joy, something else. And I want you, as you connect to this emotion, to just connect to what it is here to teach you, to show you. What insights is it presenting to you? Let me tell you, it's here to send you a message. So find that message. Maybe it's that you need more space for yourself to care for you. Maybe it's that you need a hug from a loved one. Maybe it's that you actually have been holding on to something for so long and you need to express it. Maybe it's something totally different. But just finding the message here. And then from this place of awareness, can you connect to this emotion and just thank it? Thank it for its wisdom. Thank it for the insights that you're gaining as a result of its existence. Thank it for protecting you in a time of need, likely. thank it for being a part of you. And just literally see if you can say out loud or in your mind, thank you, and then fill in the blank, name the emotion. Thank you, grief. Thank you, joy. Thank you, sadness. Thank you. I appreciate you. I am so grateful for you. And take a deep breath in and a deep breath out. One more time, breathing in and let it go.
That was beautiful. Thank
Thanks,
you for
Sam.
that. I had this, like, my anger at its core, Ilana, has everything to do with how much I care.
Mm-hmm.
I think I'm more and more in touch with that. And thank you for leading us through that practice.
Thank you so much, Sam. And I know that about you.
Thanks.
And I know how much you care and how big your heart is and how beautiful that soul is inside you that just so desperately wants to make a difference and experience the depth of what's possible. And I feel so grateful to be able to do some of that work with you and alongside you and with our educators. And so what a gift it's been to have this conversation and to dive into this incredible topic and landscape of emotional intelligence. And we just scratched the surface.
Correct. And we hope that we've left you with some strategies and just some inquiries perhaps on what emotional intelligence means to you, what it looks like in your classroom, and how you might help your students start to cultivate more of it in a really actionable and tangible way.
And just as a little, I guess, taste, I would say, you just got a tiny, tiny taste of the first part of our Masters of Education program at Breathe for Change, which we dive into the 5 layers. And Sam and I go so deep on all 5, but particularly emotional intelligence is one of our favorites. And I'm so excited. If any of you are interested in going deeper, then hopefully we'll be able to just unpack this so much further together.
100%. Thank you, friend. This was so fun.
This is the best.
Let's do it again.
Yes.